Need it.
All right, guys, back on Southeastern 16. SEC Basketball Game Day on a Tuesday. If you're wondering why we're laughing, Max is over here, 9:33 a.m. Eastern Time, chugging the one and only Diet Summit Cola.
Never
So
too early.
he's ready. Max knows it's going to be a big night of action in SEC basketball. So he's getting ready for it, as you guys are as well. Yep, I see some people checking in here early. Wesley's excited. You know why Wesley's excited,
Sorry.
Max? That's okay. He's thanking us. The kiss of death has been implemented. We all picked the Vols in Lexington tonight, and we'll talk about that game here in a second. But yeah, pretty much guarantees Wesley the victory for the Cats. But we will talk about that game, of course. Interesting night. I mean, I think this is probably, Max, we were debating. I think this is the best game slate, non-Saturday game slate of the year to this point, because you've got upset potential aplenty when you look at, everyone's already looking ahead to the number one versus number two.
Yep.
Auburn, Alabama on Saturday. Tricky road games for both tonight. At Vanderbilt, at Texas. You've got a huge one at the hump between Florida and Mississippi State. You've got Tennessee, Kentucky. I mean, Texas A&M, Georgia in its own way is an interesting game. Because now, Max, we can kind of maybe segue into this. Lenardi put out his bracketology this morning. Georgia, as probably we expected, now in the last four in category. But here's what's interesting about that. The last four byes includes three SEC teams. Oklahoma, Texas, Vanderbilt. Last four in includes Georgia. First four out. The first team out is Arkansas. Very interesting, huh? Very interesting. Where we got a lot of potential bubble teams here needing some wins. And so, fun setup heading into Tuesday.
The 5-game Tuesday slate. I think it's the first of the year, right?
No, we had another one. We had another 5-game,
Okay.
but I don't remember. That was a while back. Maybe it's like the first week of SEC play, I think.
Well, we're going to call it the first because that's what
All
I
right,
want
we'll say
to.
it's the first. We don't care about facts here. So, again, we're not worried about facts. So,
No, yeah, there's not a single double-digit spread. We've got 5 games, and each game features a top 25 team.
oh, yeah, that's true.
I mean, that's awesome. And like you said, I was like, why do you think they did the 5? And I love how SEC basketball, any channel you try to turn to, there's going to be a game on tonight. Isn't that great? Dominating the airwaves, Blake. Dominating. It's a monopoly.
I think ESPN's driving. ESPN's got to be driving the choices here. It's like, you know what? We could have one SEC game on our network tonight, or we could just put every single game possible and just have an entire 6 o'clock slate covered with SEC basketball. I don't blame them. It's a hot product. So, so you'll have just a great setup tonight. I think, especially so that early slate. I mean, those are just very intriguing games. We talked about. You got Auburn heading to Vanderbilt, where the Commodores have had a lot of success in that gym against top teams this season. We talked about it. You got Florida heading to Mississippi State, coming off the big road win and Auburn, Mississippi State trying to get another signature win. And then, of course, the game in Lexington, which let's start there because, of course, as you know, guys, we've already made our previews, and many of you already know who we picked. But Jackson Robinson, as we talked about, we did not know the status for him when we did our preview and prediction video. We now know he will not play. So Kentucky fans are like, well, here we go again. Another game where an injury factors in. But, hey, what do we always say? Undefeated this year, I'm pretty sure. Bet the bad news is undefeated. And so is this another spot for Kentucky? But, Max, we talked about it. He was a big part of that win in Knoxville. No Jackson Robinson tonight for the Cats.
There might be no Jackson Robinson, but there will be Sam Smith in the orange blazer.
Oh, boy.
Getting rowdy.
Oh, my. Oh, boy.
Joking. A little bit interesting, though. First time that Felix Akbar has popped up on the injury report, to my knowledge. He is probable. So nothing to be worried about. But I was not aware of Akpara dealing with an injury. I'm not sure what his practice situation is, if he's practicing or not. But Akpara, like we said in the preview, and we said in the first one, we thought that it was going to be Milicic and Akpara that kind of imposed their will here. So, hey, I said in the preview, Amari Williams, and then you go, we say whose game is it? I think it's Amari Williams again.
Always. Always.
Well, hey, I mean, if Akpara is dinged up, maybe he's not 100%. In a game like this, that could mean something. That could be the difference between a blocked shot and maybe they get it up over. Maybe Akpara doesn't have the jump or something. Who knows? I'm pulling at strings, but it is notable that the Tennessee front court, already down Estrella, is not going to be at full strength here, Blake.
Yeah, I mean, man, it's just how many, and I know it happens every year, but it's like, especially now where I feel like it's like the injury report gets introduced and I feel like there's more injuries than ever. So, but that's just the grind of the season this year. And we always say it's the SEC, it's such a physical league. And I think you really see that play out once you get into these conference games. And yeah, like it's just kind of, it's one of those where it doesn't really surprise you when you start to have, I mean, who is at 100% at this time of the year, right? In February, especially when you're playing in the
True.
SEC. Just the game nights here are just, there's so much physicality. We mentioned just that's the way it works in this league because there's a lot more plays at the rim. Typically not a great 3-point shooting, conference. And so you just see a lot more physicality and those kind of things, especially if you're a big guy, right? Like an Akpar and all these other guys where just so many plays are made at the rim. So, yeah. But I think, man, it's just, as we talked about in the preview, Tennessee has just been playing so well. And remember that's on both sides of the floor, and then we were picking some things apart with them offensively. But they've turned it on the past couple games. They've looked really good on the offensive side of the floor. And, the defense is going to be there. You'd be surprised if they give up 100 here, even against a great Kentucky offensive team. So, I mean, yeah, I'm curious, and I think someone brought it up earlier too. There are obviously now going to be differences in this matchup because you're not going to have Robinson on the floor, but you are going to have Butler on the floor. And so how does that change things, in this particular matchup for Kentucky and Tennessee? So, yeah, I think that's going to be kind of fascinating there. So,
we didn't bring this up in the preview, but 5 players for Kentucky haven't missed a game up until this point. Ansley Elminor, Kobe Brea, Jackson Robinson, Amari Williams, and Otega Owe. They've played 23 of 23. Now we're not going to have Jackson Robinson. So I feel like we've seen the Cats without Andrew Carr. We've seen them without Kirk Kriisa for a while now, pretty much a whole season now. Seen him without Lamont Butler. Seen him without the freshman. We have not seen them without Jackson, though. And Jackson leads the conference right now in SEC play threes with 36 at 47%. So I feel like they have the shooting to they most certainly have the shooting to, shoulder that load, but that role, Blake, that kind of 6'6" wing role in this offense, who also takes a little bit of those of the ball handling pressure off of Lamont Butler. How are you thinking that really impacts this team as a whole? Because we haven't seen them without Jackson yet.
Yeah, I mean it is, and I mean I think that's what we were kind of talking about in that first game, right? Was just the ability just to go on the road against a team like Tennessee that defends the way they do, especially on the perimeter. And how do you get open shots, and how do you make shots against them, right? And he came out and just made shots. And I think sometimes, again, we said that the game can be pretty simple. If you just have a guy who can find open shots and make open shots, like that can be the big difference. And remember, too, if we go back to the Jackson Robinson discussion, I mean, like, think back in the summer. Like, we're just, hey, give me one guy you're picking off this team, all SEC type lock scenario. Like, we were all picking Jackson Robinson. We were like, hey, I mean, it's got to probably be that guy, right? We weren't knocking everybody else, but we're thinking, all right, this is a guy that you kind of look at the role he's going to play on this team. And, yeah, like he should be perhaps the most significant player in terms of what they're going to do from an offensive upside standpoint. But yeah, I mean, I think Butler. Hey, you'd love to have Butler have one of his. What was the game we always think about where he
The
just went off?
6-3.
Yeah, when was that? That was the Louisville game, right? Yeah.
Yeah.
So where he goes, for 33 points, makes every shot except for missed 5 free throws, but like made all his shots from the floor and so all that. But yeah, like I'm excited. Like our first time to be able to see Butler versus Ziegler here. Come on, sign me up.
Ooh.
Like I'm ready. Like these are two guys we've been talking about all season long, and yeah, I think this will be a lot of fun. So
We were talking about Butler versus Ziegler in the summer.
oh yeah, we were ready for that. Now give it to us. So clearly one of the big matchups. By the way, just quickly, Mother Carol's here on the break. We appreciate Mother Carol checking in. Here, as always, we did start a little early this morning, so I know some people may be jumping in late. But scheduling-wise, we need to start at 8:30 instead of 9, so we appreciate it. Yeah, and as she says, I mean, look, history shows this season when a major player's out, team pulls together, gets a win. So that is true. I mean, we always say bet the bad news, and we've seen some teams rally for sure in this kind of scenario, without a doubt. But all right, before we continue on here, all right, guys, I want you to give us your score predictions. All right, we don't ever do we make our predictions. We don't ever predict the final score. In the chat, give us your score predictions. Kentucky, Tennessee tonight. How's it going to look for the Cats and the Vols? I'm sure we will get some serious and not so serious score responses, but that's okay. All right. Anything else, Max, on this? We're just going to jump all over the place. Again, we've already previewed this game for 20 minutes. So.
Yeah, I have one more thing. I know we say it's an Amari Williams game. Pretty much every game for Kentucky has to be an Amari Williams game at this point. Ansley Almanor hasn't scored in back-to-back games, and he was coming off of 4 straight double-digit scoring outputs, and then into back-to-back zeros. They're going to need Ansley's shooting. Maybe one of those 4 of 7 from 3, 4 of 5 from 3. Ansley Almanor, 12 points. Could use it.
Yep. Yeah. Maybe it looks like the Bryson Godine versus A&M. Maybe this is the Ansley Almanor against Tennessee. Maybe this is what it's going to be. So it's funny how I wish there was an easy way to like rank, like just those kind of weird statistical anomalies where you just have a guy against a certain team that just feasts on a certain team. But yeah, so we'll talk about that. All right, everything else, as we said, the slate for tonight, we mentioned just potential upset alert. So we're gonna play this game, Max. Okay, this is not an easy game to play on this slate.
Yes,
but again, Auburn goes to Vanderbilt, Alabama goes to Texas, Florida goes to Mississippi State. I mean, you can throw in if you want to do Georgia versus A&M, because I know you said this was an interesting matchup, Georgia A&M. From a stylistic standpoint, who's the team who should be most concerned about the upset?
I think most concerned I would cheat, and I would go with
Georgia.
I would
right?
go with. Oh well, I was gonna go.
Oh, sorry, A&M. So that I was meaning. Okay, yeah, sorry. Okay.
I was going to go with Florida, Mississippi State, just because that's that's a real close spread. But you can't not circle Auburn and Alabama. I mean, they're both coaches are having to answer questions already about the game on the weekend. They're already that's all anyone wants to talk about. They now have games where we already know how hard it is to go and play on the road. We already know. Bruce Pearl and Nate Oates now tonight are not only playing the other team, they're also playing against the look ahead, the psychology of what this week means, given it's the first number 1 versus number 2 in SEC regular season play, I'm pretty sure ever. So it's a double battle for Auburn and Alabama today. You got to go on the road and win a game in the SEC, and you got to come on and focus and snap out of what this week is.
Yeah, it's a tough one. I had it backwards. I was thinking like we were ranking them in reverse, and that's why I said Georgia because I don't. That's just a weird one. I think again, I would not go that for A&M just because they're at home, and so I'm probably like cancel that one out.
Okay.
The Alabama Texas game. There's just we've talked about how good Texas has been in that gym this season, and it's not always equated into wins, but I don't know. There's just I don't know for some reason. You got Trey Johnson. You need a star if you're going to have a chance against like Alabama. I think you got to have a, unless you just do it the Ole Miss way, where defensively you just completely take over the game and have one of those. But I don't know. There's something about this Alabama Texas game where I'm just like, I don't know, man. There's just a Trey Johnson, goes off. We mentioned Texas's 3-point shooting has not been maybe percentage wise at times what we thought it was, but they're still, sometimes they're not bad there. Alabama turned the ball over a little bit. I don't know. These are tough because like I can't really. Look, let's call it what it is. Neither of us predicted these upsets. We didn't pick, but I think this is the one that worries me a little bit.
And the spread for this game opened Alabama 4.5-point favorite. That's moved back to 3.5.
Ooh.
So you would think that the public would be on the number 2 team in the nation playing an unranked team, right? Well, it seems as if the spread is moving in the other direction. We know what that means, Blake. The gut feelings are starting to get a little bit stronger now as you're talking me into this.
Well, but here's the thing, though, right? Like, Alabama's given us no reason to believe that.
None.
None. I mean, but I say that. Let's just play this game for a second. Okay, their last 4 road games in SEC play, they won by 6 at A&M, 5 at Kentucky, 4 at Mississippi State, and 4 at Arkansas. So, like, every game has been close. But guess what? They've won all those games. And so it's like, maybe you think it's going to be kind of close. And again, we've mentioned Texas has played these top teams close there. But it's so hard to say, well, Alabama's going to lose this game. And maybe that's why I'm like, this one scares me a little bit because the combination of the two. Alabama's played a lot of close games on the road. Texas has been pretty good at home. Look ahead spot. Like all those things could factor in here. But I think if I compare that to, like you said, we could go with the obvious answer, Mississippi State and Florida, just because State's a ranked team. But like Auburn, Vanderbilt, to me, we just did our preview for Arkansas LSU for Wednesday. And, I mean, you guys probably know who we picked. We won't spoil it here, but you probably know who we picked. We're like, it's the ultimate, like, spot game.
Yeah.
Where, LSU's coming off a brutal loss. Arkansas has been playing well. They're back at home. They got to win. All that. This matchup with Auburn and Vanderbilt, it's like Auburn's coming off the home loss. You would think it's a team that's a little pissed off. But Vanderbilt's been so good at home. It's just, the size advantage, all these things we talk about. I mean, this is why, like, think about all the different storylines we've mentioned in these games. This is why this is the best non-Saturday slate, I think, of the season. Because it's just, we can find reasons as to why all these teams could be upset, right? But you just don't know what wins out in some of these games.
So last Tuesday, the win percentage for home teams in the SEC was at like 60%. But after last week, it's down to 57.3%. That's the home win rate right now in the SEC.
That's as low as it's been in a while in this league.
57% is the home win rate. So it's just like in years past, I would really lean into like Vanderbilt and Texas being at home, but there's just something about the way that Vanderbilt's formula, I don't know if it's going to work on a team like Auburn that takes care of the ball so well and is so efficient in their offense. I feel like they'll really have to take Auburn and get them out of their comfort zone and really confuse them defensively and throw a bunch of different looks at them, which they most certainly can. But I think an efficient ball handling offense is what's needed to go to Vandy and win. That's what Auburn's got.
All right, we're gonna get to some of your questions here because you guys are chiming in. Before we do that, though, hold on. Before we get there, Max, I think we need to tell some people about bracket bits because
yes, we do.
Look at that fine logo Max put in the bottom right corner, which somehow it's gone now, but it's there. Bracket bits, as we keep telling you. A lot of fun we're going to have for the NCAA tournament as you can enter into that free pick'em contest or start an auction draft league with friends, family, or coworkers. Everyone starts with the same bidding dollars. Remember, you get to outwit and outbid your league mates to secure the teams you think will go the distance. Choose from multiple scoring models, including the upset bonuses to reward the bold picks. Track your teams with live in-game scoring. Watch the standings shift in real time. Further your teams advance, the higher you climb. That's how it works. For league play, use the promo code SE16 for 40% off. SE16, 40% off. Setting up your league there. Download the Bracket Bids app today or visit them at bracketbids.com. Remember, guys, we need you to check out Bracket Bids. That helps us out here. So check it out. Sign up, get your league going, and have some fun with your bracket experience this March. All right. Let's go to some of the questions here. Let's start with this one from Gavin. Is it a real possibility that the SEC can get 4 number 1 seeds? Yes, absolutely. We've touched on the idea behind that, and I think it's because right now, to me, if you seeded the teams, Max, if we're talking about the seed order, I think right now it would be Auburn 1, Alabama 2, Tennessee 3, Duke 4. I think Tennessee would be ahead of Duke in the seeding, just my opinion. And then I think 5 would either be Florida or Texas A&M. So you see the thing we're working with there. I think the SEC would have a great chance to have 5 of the top 6 seeds right now, with the other competition being Purdue and Houston. Right?
I think Houston's destruction of Baylor last night may have put them above A&M, but I mean that's where we're at. We're at game by game basis here.
Yeah, it's game by game. Yeah.
So
that's what's going to happen. As we said, if you're rooting for the 4 number 1 seeds, you really just need a combination of wins, and you also just need to root against Duke, which for some people that will not be hard to do. That's really what it comes down to. Like, it's just if Duke loses, remember Duke still got that game against Illinois. Don't forget that. That's your kind of weird late February non-conference game. It's a good think about though if they didn't have that. Yeah. I mean, you're like, boy, you really need it in a year like this. So they've got that, and Duke still has to go to North Carolina. You never know.
Rivalry.
So I think, it's absolutely a possibility, 100% chance that it could happen. Not saying it will, could for sure. All right. Conlon asks, does Georgia have to pull off an upset to make the tournament? What do y'all think their magic number is right now? So, we mentioned earlier, Lunardi has Georgia on the last 4 in line now. So, you're kind of in that yikes territory, but you're not out of this thing. Max, I mean, we've talked about it. For Georgia, I think it's pretty simple from a mathematical standpoint. They're 4-7 in the SEC right now. You obviously can't be, 5-13 and make the tournament, even though they say conference record doesn't matter, but you're just not going to get in at 5-13. Yeah. I think at the very least, Georgia has to be 7-11 in the SEC to get in, which means you now have to find 3 more wins from this schedule. At A&M, home against Missouri, at Auburn, home against Florida, at Texas, at South Carolina, home against Vanderbilt. And that's a good thing for Georgia, because if you get 3 wins from that group, you are 100% getting in the tournament, I think. Because at that point, you're talking about the South Carolina win, maybe not going to do a lot for you. So just drop 1 game there. But the 2 other wins are going to be significant wins. And I think if you then start to compare them against the teams that are kind of hovering in that same range, San Diego State, BYU, Wake Forest, VCU, North Carolina, SMU, Pitt, Georgia's resume is better than all of theirs at that point if they have 2 more wins from their current schedule. So 7-11, Georgia's in my opinion. But getting to that 7 is not going to be easy based on the schedule.
These next four will tell us, because if they don't grab a win at home over Missouri or Florida, because I think I'm going to go ahead and just say that the two road games, going to A&M, going to Auburn, that's just tough. That is tough. If they do, hey, that changes things. But Missouri and Florida at home, Blake, gotta get one. Absolutely gotta. No ifs, ands, or buts. Gotta get one of those two.
If you're Missouri fans, you're probably thinking, "Oh my!" To me, that feels like the ultimate like bad spot game, where I would not like that if I'm Missouri going on the road and playing that Georgia team at home. Free throws in that game. Whew.
Oh man, let's do a
watch.
watch.
Could be a big free throw game. I mean, it should be a big free throw game in my opinion. So. Yeah, so I think that's where Georgia's at. What is? I'll ask you quickly, Torvik. What's the percentages for Georgia? I know we talked about it, but I'm curious.
See, the thing with Torvik is it's so game by game that, like, Arkansas had like a 0% chance, and then after 2 games it was like 45.
Right.
So it's a little bit aggressive, but Georgia right now has a 65% chance.
I think that's about right. Because, again, if you're just talking a combination of winning at South Carolina, even a home win against Vanderbilt, then all you really need is one more. And, I mean, I think it's reasonable to think they will find one more somewhere. So, yeah, I think that's probably about right. And then if you look at let's see here. We talked about kind of the scheduling. And, yeah, I mean, Georgia's got the 9th toughest schedule in the country left to go. Alabama has the toughest. Vanderbilt has the 3rd toughest. Auburn has the 4th toughest. So, yeah, you just keep going. So, yeah, this is where things start to get interesting from a scheduling standpoint. All right. Kyle
How many times did... Oh, go ahead.
No, go ahead. No, that's fine.
I was just going to ask you real quick. How many times did Dakota LaFew hit more than 2 threes in non-conference play, do you think? More than 2, so 3 or more.
3 or more. I have no idea. Twice?
He did it 8 times in non-conference play.
Wow.
How many times has he done it in conference play?
Oh, 0?
0. I think that's been the difference with this perimeter offense.
SEC defenses, man. SEC defenses. We'll see if they're going to face another tough one tonight against A&M. Kyle asked, the BPI tool that the selection committee uses, not sure why it's so different than Ken Palm, Torvik, etc. Yeah, like BPI does factor into, again, I don't know the exact specifics, but yes, like BPI does factor into the tournament selection stuff.
I don't know why it's so drastically.
It is. I don't know either, but it is a drastic difference in certain areas. So, yeah, no question. All right. We're not going to go long here this morning because, again, you guys have all of our prediction videos for tonight's games. We'll be doing our reaction tonight for everything, as you know. And, yeah, plenty of stuff. So anything else, any other questions you want to throw at us, let us know. And we will, again, be back reaction tonight after the first game slate. So we'll have reaction to that trifecta of Auburn at Vanderbilt, Florida at Mississippi State, and, of course, Tennessee at Kentucky. So we'll do that right after those games finish up. And then the reaction for the 2 night games, Alabama, Texas, A&M, Georgia, we'll do that tomorrow morning, most likely. So, yep.
Blake, I am looking right now at ESPN's, just their score page. They have Mississippi State money line, -110. Florida money line, -110. Oh man!
Oh boy! Look out!
My gosh, we've got another tight one, and a tense one in the hump.
I mean, honestly, how is there? We know that game's going to go down to like the final possession, right? Like, I mean, it's got to. Like, there's no question. So, yeah. What do you think I think we already talked about this. I think we said this yesterday. What do we think the line's going to be for the iBob?
Wasn't it like Auburn by like 1.5? I think.
I think 1.5 would be my prediction. But it's hard to say right now because I think results tonight will matter big time.
Yeah.
So, but if you said it right now, I think it'd be 1.5 in Auburn's favor.
Yeah.
Which I don't know. I don't know if I could. I was kind of sold on that yesterday, but now I'm kind of like, maybe a pick 'em. Let's just cop out and say a pick 'em. All right. So
I wonder what the odds were last year. It'd be interesting to see, but I don't think there's a way for us to check quick.
That's all right. Yeah. Well. Okay. All right, guys. We're gonna hop off because we said it was gonna kind of be a short one today. Line is Auburn minus 3.5 right now. Now where is that? Is that one of those look ahead lines? Maybe
look ahead line. Maybe. Yeah.
It may be. They have those out there, but 3.5 would seem a little high to me for this kind of game. But I mean, again, we would not be shocked by Auburn being favored just because of how good Auburn's been to this point. Remember, one game does not make a season or a resume.
I got it.
So
last year, when Auburn was 16-3, they were the number 18 in the country, and they were going to play at unranked Alabama, who was 13-6 at the time, who had a really tough non-conference. Alabama was minus 2.5.
Interesting. I mean, look, if Alabama if they're favored, I would not be shocked, but I don't think tonight's going to matter. Like, look, the number's going to, depending on what these teams do tonight, it will matter. So, yeah. All right, quickly, before we wrap up, if you just watched this show and you said, you know what, I'm not even thinking about basketball coming out of this, I'm only thinking about one thing. Yep. You know what that is, Max? You're just thinking about moving. Somehow in this half hour, everything we've talked about has made you decide, I would like to move. Well, hey, that's great. Congratulations on the move, and congratulations on using Sanders Logistics for your move, because your friends and mine, formerly known as Ted R. Sanders Moving, a leader among moving companies in Nashville, Tennessee, and the surrounding area, they're a team of professional movers focused on delivering efficient, hassle-free moving at an affordable price. Whether you're moving across town or across the country, Sanders Logistics has you covered. Just as Big Gator EJ says, just joined, and now pulling the Sanders Logistics on him. That's what happens, Big Gator EJ. And I know we give Big Gator EJ some slack. He's on the West Coast. We had an early start this morning. We give Big Gator EJ some slack here. But as Joe Mother says, Big Gator EJ has the option if he wants to move. He can move across the country to the Eastern time zone. He'd be here earlier. However that works. So, guys are out of control. Okay. I don't even know where I was at in the ad read, but I'll just say again, efficient, hassle-free moving at an affordable price. Visit them at tedrsandersmoving.com. All right. We're moving on out of here.
I think I got lucky that Big Gator EJ's on the West Coast, because he'd be all over me for my Bulldogs pick.
Yeah, Big Gator EJ, tell him right now. He picked against the Gators. You know it.
Nope.
Oh, man. Separation Tuesday in SEC basketball on our picks. I think this is the only one we picked separate on, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. All right. We'll see what happens at the hump. All right, guys. We appreciate you. As always, again, early start this morning. If you join in late, go back, watch the replay. Some thoughts on these games tonight, potential upsets, all that. And Big Gator EJ's already sent it to the Gators. Good.
Yep.
Good. Send it to all of them. All right. We appreciate you. Hit the subscribe button if you haven't already. Hit that like button on your way out. Joe Mother has left a 5-star review on the Sanders Logistics Google page. That's how we know you're dedicated.
That's what it's all about.
Yes. Thank you as always for tuning in. Thanks, Holly. Thanks for everyone else. We appreciate you as always. And again, tonight, reaction after the 6 p.m. Central game slate. 3 big games to kick things off. We'll be back here tonight to have it covered. So, all right, we appreciate you guys watching. As always, we'll talk to you soon. Southeastern 16.